Welcome to our 5 on 5. We're pleased to welcome back Lisa Mensah, the president and CEO of the Oregon Community Foundation. Lisa, good to see you again. How are you?
Good to see you, Craig. I'm fine.
So I'm sure many of our viewers know about OCF, but they may not know about the foundation's broad work. In what areas does your foundation focus?
The great thing about Oregon Community Foundation is that we don't have to have just a couple of focuses. We have 4,000 donors. We work in all 36 counties of Oregon. So we have a broad set of interest areas that are they spring from the needs in our communities. So we, yes, are in education and arts, and yes, we're in housing and livability, but it's more than that. It's thousands of different interests that Oregonians have said will help this state thrive.
And you mentioned arts. I was just going to say, OCF just announcing a major investment, $20 million. What brought about that decision?
You know, this was a long dialogue in response to the pandemic and the fires and the challenges that our arts organizations have faced across this state. So our board was listening, and what we learned was that this wasn't a normal time, and that the rebuilding of our arts institutions would take more than we thought. It would take more time, and it would take more money. Recovering audiences, building back programs. And this was a particular challenge for the major anchors here, especially I'm sitting here in the home of the Shakespeare Festival.
Sure, yeah.
And that we knew that fixing these arts anchors would take more. We didn't think it should just be the private sector or the philanthropic sector or the public sector. We thought we should all come together. So the real thing that it took was coordination, so that the Miller Foundation, the legislature could come in, and then our foundation. And that's what brought a $52 million commitment altogether to this state. Oregon Community Foundation is proud to be 20 of it, 12 of it to the major anchors, and 8 of it to the smaller and mid-sized, and some of the very tiny ones. And we'll be saying more about those investments soon.
Yeah, and certainly everybody's feeling the impact of all of that.
Well, good.
Yeah, and so you're obviously based up north, but you're in town this week. There's a big nonprofit conference that's been going on. That's why we're lucky enough to have you here in studio. Had to take advantage of our opportunity. What was your message when you spoke to the group?
You know, they asked me a question about sweet spot and big and surprising grants. And the surprise, of course, was $20 million. Yeah. That's not. But my message was that the sweet spot of the Oregon Community Foundation is often to do a small grant. We are often the first grant that a nonprofit would receive. There are 340 nonprofit leaders here in Ashland this week, and many of them run very small nonprofits. Some of them have just gotten their nonprofit status, but they're about important work. They get the backpacks for kids. They get the food to families. They know their communities. And so those nonprofits who see important work in their communities, they might not be huge, but they're doing something essential. And often they're amplifying the voices of people who are the most close to problems. And we've got a volunteer structure inside of our foundation. We have leadership councils who volunteer, committees that volunteer on committees that advise our grants. And this is perfect for learning about what's really bubbling up in our community. And it changes over time. So my message was, we value this state, this community of leaders. We understand it changes. This room changed. Most of the nonprofits, this was their first conference that they'd been to of the Nonprofit Association of Oregon. So it was fun to be there.
Yeah, 340. That's quite a number.
Group.
I knew it was big. I had no idea.
It's a long lunch line, you know.
I've had a lot of handshaking. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll have much more with Lisa in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Lisa Mensah, the president and CEO of the Oregon Community Foundation. So you've been back about a year and a half now to Oregon, and in this role about that length of time. What have you learned, and how is that shaping your plans for the future of OCF?
You know, I've spent a year and a half being back in my home state, driving around in a little CRV, listening to people. And it's been, people ask about what surprises you. There's more hope here. I mean, admittedly, I'm talking to hopeful people that want to change their communities for good. There's more unity here. I think it's important that people know that we all need housing, we all love our arts, we love our kids, we want our communities to thrive. There's more appreciation for Oregon's beauty. You know, I've yet to meet someone who doesn't think they live in the most beautiful part of the state, and they're all beautiful. But my real sense is that Yes, there's urgency to fix some things. We'd like the cost of our daycare to be more affordable. We want more housing so our kids can live in our communities. But there's some real unity on the sense of what needs to move forward. And I think I get a very lucky seat. I get to talk to the most hopeful people in our state. They are not giving up. The very practical, can-do spirit that I grew up with here in Oregon is still alive and well. It's younger than me now, so I feel good about the leaders who are trying to steer the work of our state to a good place.
It's good to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us
Craig.
today. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.